Good evening, dear viewers, and welcome to a new episode of the Daily Debate. I'm your host for tonight, Mohammed Abdurrahim. And tonight we'll be talking about Egypt's pivotal role in achieving stability in this part of the world, the heart of the world really, the Middle East. And we'll be focusing on Egypt's role in supporting the just Palestinian cause and in brokering the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, in laying out the plans to rebuild Gaza, to work for the path of a two-state solution, to bring about peace in this part of the world. And we are delighted to have with us here in the studio His Excellency Ambassador Medhat Al-Meligy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. A very good evening to you, Ambassador Al-Meligy. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
As we always do in this program, Ambassador Al-Meligy, allow us please, and allow us, dear viewers, first to watch a report about our main topic for tonight, and then we'll come back and start our discussion. Please stay with us.
The Egyptian proposal to form a Palestinian National Committee aimed at managing Gaza is a significant diplomatic effort in response to ongoing challenges in the region. The proposal likely involves collaboration between Palestinian groups and regional stakeholders, with the goal of establishing a unified leadership that can effectively govern and handle reconstruction efforts in Gaza, especially in the wake of conflict and humanitarian crisis. The mention of a financial contribution of up to $20 billion indicates a substantial investment aimed at rebuilding infrastructure, providing humanitarian aid, and fostering economic development in Gaza. Engaging regional players suggests that Egypt is seeking a multilateral approach, potentially involving other countries in the region, such as Qatar, Jordan, or Turkey, alongside international organizations, to ensure a comprehensive support mechanism. Such a committee might focus on prioritizing key areas like healthcare, education, housing, and basic services, along with implementing security measures to maintain stability. The success of this initiative would likely depend on the commitment of all involved parties to establish a collaborative framework, as well as on addressing political divisions among Palestinian factions, primarily Hamas and Fatah, to create a cohesive strategy for governance and development in Gaza. This proposal reflects ongoing diplomatic efforts to address humanitarian needs in Gaza, while also aiming to stabilize the region politically and economically. The reception of the proposal and its potential implementation would ultimately depend on the reactions of various stakeholders, including Palestinian leaders, regional powers, and the international community.
Welcome back, dear viewers. Thanks to Manal Al-Ibyari and Khalid Abdelbari for this report. Back here in the studio with the former Assistant Foreign Minister and member of the Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Medhat Al-Meligy. Ambassador Al-Meligy, a lot is happening. Before we talk about Egypt's role, but whenever we talk about anything related to the just Palestinian cause, Egypt has to be there.
Exactly.
But a lot is happening now. Israel is trying to extend the first phase of the ceasefire. There is an Israeli delegation in Cairo tonight to discuss the ceasefire. The problem of the exchange of hostages has been dealt with. At least the 600 plus Palestinian
been released already.
Yes, prisoners of war have been released. Now, I mean, it seems to be a tricky, fluid situation. Walk us through the situation at the moment, the Israeli goals.
Exactly, that's the main point, actually, the Israeli goals. You just sum it up. The idea is that Israel wants to release the maximum number of hostages without committing to the second phase. That's in a nutshell what Israel is aiming at. So this is the point. Hamas
And the US
have
president
repeatedly...
the U.S. president has said, although he is credited with reaching the ceasefire, Mr. Trump, and brokering it and forcing it, really, in some experts' views, but he's saying it's up to Israel. So is he a broker, or is he now a biased partner?
The United States can never be a broker, in my point of view. Actually, the United States have always been and will always be on the Israeli side. Maybe the tactics will differ a little bit, but the strategy is the same. I mean, when President Trump forced Israel to sign the agreement over which we are talking right now, he had on his mind his plan for Gaza, as we've seen. This plan that was
it seems to have been thwarted.
Well, to a certain degree, yes, but I mean, after the clip that he published yesterday on X, it seems that it's still alive very much in his mind. And actually, he made it in a poor taste, if I may say, because I mean, you cannot talk about people's freedom and people's wish for autonomous rights and independence by ridiculing them and thinking of Gaza as Las Vegas of the Middle East. And this is exactly what he projects on us. And I didn't like it. I mean, we thought at a certain point when he said that he will not enforce it on the countries
that he had retracted.
That he had retracted, but actually he did not. Maybe he retracted temporarily until he sees the plan. The plan, according to him, I think that, I mean, the large lines that have been
that's the Egyptian air plan?
Exactly, has leaked, does not meet his satisfactory point, which is to get rid of the problem once and for all. As long as, according to him, as we did not remove the Palestinians from their land, so the plan will not be to his liking.
But he hasn't commented on the plan, right?
No, not at all.
It's your
I'm just talking.
It's your
because
opinion.
we are all speculating because we don't have a plan in front of us.
Right.
I mean, just reports from here and there, some sources here and there, who are talking about a temporary phase of 5 to 10 years. To reconstruct Gaza while moving the Gazans from one area to another until we build it and so on. And I think that this is not what Israel is planning, because Israel, until this moment, they are talking about forcing the Palestinians out. And actually they are accusing Egypt.
They put it in a so-called nice way. I mean,
yes,
voluntarily.
Exactly. But this is the American way. But the Israelis are blunt about it. They just want to do, and this is actually a very important point that you mentioned here, because the idea, I think that the moment of truth will really appear once Israel get all its hostages and the bodies or the remaining of those who died during the Israeli attacks on Gaza. Once they take this is going to be the moment of truth. Whether Israel is going to commit to any kind of peace or ceasefire, or they are going totally to annihilate Gaza the way they always dreamt of doing.
Absolutely, but there is an important question here, and it is about what will be the position of U.S. President Donald Trump, who says he wants peace, and we have to take him to his word. He wants peace. He doesn't want wars. He doesn't want killing. And I want to credit you with something, Mr. Ambassador. I remember that a few months ago when former President, U.S. President Joe Biden was there, and I asked you, is Israel, will it adhere to a clear no from the U.S., a clear stop it, or will the Israeli Premier Netanyahu do whatever he wishes, even if there is a clear no, stop it? And you told me, whatever the Americans say will happen. If they say no to Israel, it's no. If they say, so I want to credit you with this, because this is, I mean, Mr. Biden was obviously, not strong enough. Mr. Trump is a very strong man,
yes.
and he stopped Israel. But now he says it's up to Israel to do whatever it wants. I mean, it's very clear.
That's the point.
But he doesn't want to see blood as well.
No. He doesn't mind seeing blood. I mean, this is another misunderstanding. He doesn't want American soldiers to be involved in any blood. But if the Israeli wants to do it, it's their war, he will allow them and he will help them as much as he can. And we've seen one of the first decisions of his is to provide them with what's worth of $8 billion of weapons and ammunition. I mean, why is that? To encourage peace? Definitely not. So he doesn't mind that Israel would wipe them as they tried to do during the 15 months that have enrolled already. So the idea is that the Americans don't want to get involved. And actually, he has said it clear. I mean, he wants to acquire Gaza without any engagement from his troops there, without even paying from his own money there, and to reconstruct it even without his money there. And he's just going to run it. And this is really, I mean, it's a funny thing. I mean, he doesn't want any sacrifice whatsoever, even if we accept the plan. He doesn't want any sacrifice whatsoever. But
hypothetically, of course, because
yes,
the plan has been rejected.
Okay.
Clearly.
But he doesn't want to pay anything. He doesn't want his soldiers to be involved. But yet he wants to acquire Gaza. And actually, that's what. And the plan was so.
Irrealistic
and obnoxious even, that even his closest allies refuted it. I mean, such as Germany. And for the first time we see a real divergence in positions between Europe on one side and the Americans on the other side. Of course, it has been even grown deeper with the two different positions on Ukraine. So the situation is that we have to try to exploit this by having more of European support for the Palestinian state.
But you said something very scary, Mr. Ambassador, because some would say that Mr. Trump would mind seeing blood. He doesn't want to see blood, but you're actually saying that if it's Palestinian blood, it wouldn't really matter. This is your opinion.
Yes, definitely. I mean, nobody, yes, it is scary, but this is the reality. I mean, he didn't mind displacing 2 million people under the pretext, as you just said, to nicer places, as if your own land doesn't mean anything. And I wonder, I mean, what kind of pride do you have about even the U.S. if you think that if you find a better place, then you will leave the U.S. and go to this better place? It doesn't work this way. And it shouldn't work this way.
He and the Israelis even said, give them the choice. I mean, they're challenging here.
And there is something here, because they always accuse Egypt that we are the one closing the door on Palestinians who wants to leave, although they made it quite clear. Of course, you might have one or two who wants to leave, who want to flee the whole situation. And you can understand this after 15 months.
100,000, but we have yes, 2 million.
We have 2 million who wants to stay there. And I think the march that we've seen from the south to the north shows that these people don't want to leave their land. They went back to the ruins of their homes, just not to leave their land. So what are you expecting out of this? But I mean, the mere idea of us discussing the plan is a credit to the plan, which I don't want to honor it with.
So we're going to have an Egyptian plan, an Arab plan on March the 4th when Egypt hosts the extraordinary Arab summit here. As you said, we don't have the plan before us now written, but we've heard
yes, different
glimpses
yes,
of what it contains.
Yes.
I want to go back to the main points. But the plan, we still have a week or so. But the main sticking points, and I want to give credit also to some of my guests here, and even to myself, because when I posed from the very first day when the ceasefire was reached, I was thinking about 2 or 3 issues, and they seem to be the real issues.
Mainly the
hostages.
After?
Yeah. What will happen when Israel gets back all the hostages? That's one.
We just talked about that.
Second point, the Philadelphia corridor. It always stuck to my mind. This is a very, very, very important point, especially to Egypt, and especially that this has to do with the Camp David treaty, an accord, and modifications in 2005 and so on. And the point about Hamas's arms, Because even if they say, okay, we're not going to rule, but what about the armament of the resistance? And how can you ask a resistance to disarm itself? What will they have left? So seemingly this would be a red line for Hamas, but also on the other side, seemingly this would be the only thing that Israelis might accept. So I want to talk about
we have
hostages, Philadelphia, Hamas's arms.
I will go even beyond that.
Reconstruction.
I will go even beyond that. As we always say, that the road to hell is filled with good intentions. Let's talk about even beyond that, as I just said. What is the context of what you're talking about? Isn't it peace, a just peace for the Palestinians and the Israelis alike, that you can live within your borders safe and sound without being scared of any aggression from the other party? We have here 2 points once we talk about this. The first one is that Israel wants to win them both. They want security, peace, and they want the land. It's an impossibility, because everybody have said it. As long as you have occupation, then you will continue to have resistance. But the main point is the following. Is Israel ready to commit to any kind of peace? Because in this, I believe that Egypt can convince Hamas to let go of their arms and even try to formulate like a party, a political party. And we've seen this in many countries, even Israelis themselves. I mean, we all know that many prime ministers of Israel were already members of terrorist groups, the Haganas and the Stern group, and all these groups who committed terrorist attacks on the British, if you remember. Of course, not to mention what they did in 1948, that was the culmination of everything. But at the same time, that after that, you could enroll yourself to become a political party. I can convince Hamas to do that if there is any horizon for peace. But if there isn't, then we will have to discuss about their arm, because there is no process. I mean, as you just mentioned it, we cannot have peace as long as there is an occupation. Unless it's a forced occupation.
And resistance to occupation is legal by international law.
Exactly.
Right?
The Charter of the United Nations specifies that. So this is the main idea. What does Israel want? The second point, which is very important, I've said it on this show and other shows as many times as possible, and I don't know why nobody is talking about this. Can someone in this whole big world tell me where are exactly the borders of Israel, including Israelis themselves? They would never admit to their borders. Even their constitution does not have any border specification. Where are the frontiers?
You're hinting now to the expansion in Syria, the
exactly.
expansion in Lebanon,
in Syria,
the West Bank,
everywhere they can set a foot on. And this is the main problem. If Israel really wants peace and want to blame it on Palestinian, at least declare where your borders are, because any operation beyond this point is going to be a terrorist attack. If not, then it's not a terrorist attack according to the UN Charter and international law.
It's a very important point.
It is the most important point. You have to mention...
Because it seems to be the trend. Okay, we occupy parts of the land, of Syrian land, for instance, and we say we're going to stay there for as long as it takes. And then we occupy more Syrian land, and we say we will not... Israel
just said it today.
It will not allow...
Indefinitely, that's the word they use, that we are going to stay in the new areas that they occupied in Syria indefinitely.
And what gives Israel the right, to, while it's on Syrian soil, to say it will not allow the Syrian army to deploy on Syrian soil? This is what it says. And it says it will not allow anybody to be hostile with the Druze, although the Druze are part and parcel of the Syrian people. And the Lebanese people, this is happening in Lebanon.
Who gave them this right is that Israel have always been above the international law, supported by the West in general and by the United States specifically. Without that, they wouldn't have been able to do any of what they have done so far.
Okay, the Philadelphia Corridor. This is very important. It's very important to Egypt. They were supposed to withdraw from it by the end of phase 1. What's going to happen here? They are trying, of course, to extend phase 1.
The declaration said that they will not withdraw now.
This is what they said.
This is what they just said yesterday.
Right.
And I believe that this is not their intention. And we have here two positions that have to be clear. What is going to be the Egyptian official position on this declaration? And the second, what is going to be the United States position on this declaration? I'm not very optimistic about the position of the United States, but I know that the Egyptian position has always been, since day one of the occupation of the Philadelphia Corridor, or as I like to call it, Salah ad-Din Corridor, it's a red line. But Egypt do not want to destroy the peace treaty and the peace accords between the two countries. Israel do not mind doing that.
You think so?
Yes. It's just that they don't want to do it now. But they do not mind if they feel that they will get something better in return.
But we all know that the only country that Israel fears in its, at least
Let me correct
in its borders,
they will not provoke it, but
Egypt.
they will, if it happens,
Egypt.
they are ready for it. If it happens, because if we insist on going for a war, for example, for this Salah ad-Din corridor, they wouldn't mind fighting us over it. That's what I mean. It's not that they will provoke it, but they will try to always say that this is temporary. I'm definitely leaving at some point, but not today. I'm still not secured with the Hamas. They will find a pretext to stay there. It's not going to say, listen, you know what, I'm staying here and do whatever you want to do. This is not the Israeli way of doing it. They will just claim a reason for not doing it.
Of course, since I said that, I mean, Egypt, among the countries that share borders with Israel, is the, and of course Turkey and Iran in the region. So but it seems they make no, they don't respect anybody else, it seems. It seems.
They don't. They respect only force. And actually, I mean, let's be honest here to a certain degree. Egypt is trying to broker peace between, or at least a ceasefire, a prolonged ceasefire. But all the countries who are supporting the Palestinian, all of them, without exclusion, no one said that, except maybe for Iran, maybe if they said it, that the Palestinians have the right to defend themselves, and we are going to allow them to do so by giving them weapons. Nobody ever said this. Although what we've seen in a similar situation when it comes to Ukraine, that the Ukrainians have to be armed in order to defend themselves against the Russian aggression, which is perfectly aligned with the international law. But when it comes to the Palestinian, it's a different issue.
The Turks sometimes give hints
Nobody
in that
said
direction.
it out loud. I mean, I think we all read about the amount of weapons or money or support that the West is giving to Ukraine. They put it in front pages. But when it comes to us, it has to be smuggled arms. It has to be this. Nobody is talking that now that Israel is insisting on committing this, we are going to help the Palestinian and the Palestinian resistance to fight occupation. Nobody is saying this. And I think this is a narrative that we have to start adopting, even at least as I say that
diplomatic
it could be said. It is not a shame to say it, but now the way we see it is that nobody is saying it. Egypt is the only country who cannot say it because you cannot you cannot give arms and at the same time try to broker a deal. So this is why our position is very sensitive, because we have to have the trust of the two parties. But beside Egypt, nobody else is doing that. Even the countries who want really to support the Palestinian resistance will try to smuggle arms to the Palestinian resistance, but not frontline pages, as we've seen it in the case of Ukraine. And this is, I think, it's a very, very sensitive issue, and at the same time, a very rightful one. It's like as if we are ashamed from what is right. We should not be.
And what's happening in the West Bank as well is very dangerous, isn't it?
It's much worse, because the West Bank is, let's say, if Gaza is a piece of land for the Palestinian, but the West Bank is like a cake to the Israelis. They want to annex it. And we've heard about many of the Jewish supporters of Israel who have donated billions of dollars to the administration of Mr. Trump and maybe Mr. Trump himself in order to gain his approval on annexing the West Bank. And this is going to be very dangerous. That's why sometimes we see that the position of the West Bank is far more critical than the one in Gaza. Gaza is, at least, it's an enclave. Even we call it the enclave of Gaza. But the West Bank, it has fertile soil, it has water, it has prospects, it's more civilized. Of course, now that the Gaza Strip is totally, after the carpet bombing that Israel did and the massacres that were apprehended by the Israelis, it's a totally destructive land. It's no man's land now, as they call it. So this is very dangerous because...
But Israel is forcefully displacing tens of thousands of Palestinians from Jenin, Tulkarem, and
exactly. So far we are talking about over 40,000. And you might, if nobody is going to talk about it, you might have more and more. But the idea is, where are you going to deport them? This is the main point. I mean, you will reach a moment where you have to deport them externally. And neither Egypt nor Jordan accept this solution. So who is going to take the Palestinian if the Palestinians are ready to leave? And this is the most important thing. They are not. That's the point. So I mean, I don't see how this is going to happen, but the idea is that we have to take an approach that is going to be different. We have to take an approach that we say that we are not weak. We want a fair treatment for the Palestinian. We want a Palestinian state. We have to start negotiating. And we have, I mean, with our talks with the Israelis or with the Americans, everything has to lead at the end to peace talks in order to reach a Palestinian state.
Goal, of course, the end goal is a viable and independent Palestinian state, West Bank, East Jerusalem, Al-Quds, and Gaza. And maybe this is why opposition leader Yair Lapid surprised us with his bizarre proposal, and we've heard the Egyptian Foreign Ministry responding to that. What did you make of Lapid's proposal and the Foreign Ministry's
Well,
response?
I mean, luckily I'm not member of the government, so I can talk my piece, I can talk my mind out. I'm not 100% against it, but at the same time it has to be in a context, and this is what I wanted to see from the Egyptian officials. I want to say the following, that we are ready to examine this. Let's take it.
Well, the response said half solutions, right?
Yes.
Said we don't accept half solutions.
Not just that, but I want to see what is the rest of it. Is this the plan? Thank you very much. No, this is not a plan. But if it is coupled with the idea that after the 8 years, for instance, we are going to have a Palestinian state, not to negotiate a Palestinian state, and then we fail again. No. That they will be talks.
That includes West Bank,
in parallel,
East Jerusalem,
of course,
Gaza.
Parallel, a Palestinian state and East Jerusalem and the borders of the 4th of June 1967. If this is going to be a temporary phase, and at the end, and we have all the guarantees of the major countries, we are talking about the US, we are talking about Britain, France, Germany, the Russians even, everybody is included, then we might look at this plan. But rejecting, no, why do we reject? Well, let's say, okay, we accept it, but in this context, and only in this context. That's when we see it as serious, because I don't want, you know, I served in Israel myself. I stayed 4 years in Israel as member of our diplomatic missions there.
Which years were they, Mr. Ambassador?
From 2000 until 2004.
Very critical years.
Yes, during the second Intifada. And there, we are always
during
accused...
the time the late Mr. Arafat was
yes,
assassinated.
Yes, exactly. So the idea is the following. We are always accused that we reject everything. No, we will not reject. I mean, bluntly like that. No, we accept to study the plan, but within a frame, a complete frame, a comprehensive plan.
Very important words from a man who served as a top
this is
Egyptian
the idea.
diplomat
So I mean,
Israel, a member
just
of the Egyptian
rejecting,
Council
okay,
for Foreign
good, we
Affairs.
reject, and we have to reject it, honestly speaking, because the way it was offered by Mr. Lapid shows that this is his only plan. You know, it's like I worked this and I thought it through only to this point, that Egypt will run Gaza. And then what? Well, there is nothing more to that.
Yeah, but the most important goal, as you mentioned, Mr. Ambassador, is to have a viable and independent Palestinian state.
Exactly.
And this is the right of Palestinians. Simple as that. By international law. Mr. Ambassador, dear viewers, allow us to watch a second report. We still have much to talk about because I think this is going to be a very hot Ramadan, especially in occupied Palestine. So let's see the Egyptian efforts to bring in humanitarian aid to Gaza, to bring in the mobile homes, the heavy building equipment, materials, and let's come back and continue our discussion here. Please stay with us.
Egypt's ongoing efforts to rebuild Gaza, including the recent transfer of prefabricated homes, demonstrate its commitment to addressing the immediate humanitarian needs of families affected by conflict in the region. The provision of safe housing is a crucial step in the reconstruction process, particularly in the wake of widespread destruction and displacement resulting from hostilities. These prefabricated homes can serve as temporary solutions while more permanent housing and infrastructure are developed. By facilitating safe living conditions, Egypt aims to alleviate some of the suffering experienced by Gaza's population and contribute to the overall stability of the area. This initiative aligns with broader regional and international efforts to provide humanitarian aid and support reconstruction in Gaza. In addition to housing, comprehensive rebuilding efforts would need to address other critical areas such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure repair. Egypt's role can also involve coordinating with international donors and organizations to ensure that the necessary resources and assistance are effectively mobilized for long-term recovery. The success of these rebuilding efforts will depend on various factors, including security conditions, access for aid organizations, and political cooperation among Palestinian factions. Continued engagement and support from regional partners, alongside international backing, will be essential to achieving sustainable recovery and development in Gaza. These prefabricated homes offer a rapid and efficient solution to housing shortages, enabling families to regain a sense of stability and security. By focusing on safe housing, Egypt is not only helping to meet urgent needs, but also setting the stage for longer-term recovery and reconstruction efforts. Additionally, Egypt's involvement in facilitating the transfer of these homes demonstrates its role as a mediator in the region and underscores its commitment to improving conditions in Gaza. This initiative can also be seen as part of a larger strategy to foster cooperation among Palestinian factions and other regional stakeholders, aiming for a coordinated approach to rebuilding efforts. The provision of safe housing is a critical component of any reconstruction initiative, as it directly impacts the well-being of families and communities. Combined with financial investments and political efforts, these steps can contribute to stabilizing the region and promoting a more sustainable future for Gaza and its residents.
All right, thanks again, Manel and Khalid, for this report. We're back here with Ambassador Medhat Meligy, former Assistant Foreign Minister and a member of the Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs, a former diplomat who served for Egypt in Israel. Now, Mr. Ambassador, it's going to be a hot Ramadan, especially regarding the Palestinian cause, the just Palestinian cause. What are we expecting in the upcoming days? I mean, regarding so many critical issues, the humanitarian aid, where Egypt bears a huge responsibility on this, and it's doing its utmost, its best. It's trying to do its best in this, of course, naturally. The heavy building material, equipment, the mobile homes, I don't know, again, the Philadelphia corridor, the talks for having a second stage.
Well, first of all, concerning the reconstruction of Gaza, which is something that Egypt have taken upon its shoulders, I would believe that the Arab countries would not want to get involved, because we heard there are some reports talking about $20 billion as
least.
contribution from the Arab countries to the reconstruction of Gaza. What guarantee can anyone give them that Israel is not going to bomb this again?
Right.
This is something, I mean, it's not that they like to bomb things. I hope, and I mean every word here, I hope that all the Arab countries are on the same line when it comes to the Palestinian cause.
Aren't they?
To a certain extent, not all of them are on the same line. We are all supporting the Palestinian right, but not with the same degree of commitment like Egypt, for instance. So, I mean, I wouldn't specify this or that country, but in general, I hope that we are all going to be on this line, because this is a critical moment, not just for the Palestinian cause, because actually, I mean, repeating the Palestinian cause is starting to become redundant. Now it's the Palestinian cause, the Syrian cause,
right,
the Lebanese cause, and we hope that we'll stop there, because Israel is greedy for everything that it can put its hands on. So
it talked about Saudi lands.
Well, they talked about Saudi lands in order to put the Saudis in a nervous position, because this is not the idea. Because if they talk about Saudis, it's very simple. Why don't you take the Israelis? They're less and you love them. Take them to the United States. I mean, it's even a better plan than the one that Saudis take the Palestinian, which is two different cultures. Although we are all Arabs, but two different cultures, and it is not the right decision for.
So you have a counter plan for.
Yes,
for
I mean, why don't you take the Israelis? I mean, this is a very good plan. I believe they're like
and half
8
of
million.
them are in the United States.
Exactly, and many other Jews. They can all join each other, and maybe in the Nevada desert they can build a new community among the Americans who loves them and who will
You're
never
using
do
the same
anything.
logic. You're using the same
Exactly,
logic.
and actually we've seen even other similar logics from the Nordic countries, especially in Denmark, when they made a lot of fun about buying Greenland, and that Greenland is not for sale, and why not buy the United States? And I think there is a counter offer to buy California, because it's been a disaster after the fire that took place there. Who wants to live there? We will take it, and we will make it a new
it's getting to
Riviera
be a joke
in California. So I mean, as long as you are giving a funny plan, then the counter plan is going to be as funny as yours. So this is the idea. I'm not saying that it's. I believe that Mr. Trump, when he said this plan, I think he misunderstood one thing. He thought that the Israelis and the Arabs are fighting over this land. So he said, you know, like when a mother is fed up from her children, none of you is going to play with this toy, I am keeping it. So this is the idea of Mr. Trump. I believe that he wants to take Gaza for
I have a
this.
question here from the point of view of Hamas. Are they stuck at the moment? The hostages are drying out. I mean, the number of hostages are drying. If you are in their position, I mean, would you give up the remaining 20+ hostages that are alive and then wait for your fate to be decided by Mr. Trump or Mr. Netanyahu?
Unfortunately, they don't have a choice. They have to continue with the plan. And Israel is actually providing them with a great alibi that it doesn't want to fulfill it. And actually, if there wasn't what they called the families of the hostages, we wouldn't have seen this.
Right.
And but make no mistakes. Don't you ever think that the family of the hostages care about the Palestinian? They do not give a damn about the Palestinian. I'm sorry to use this word, but they do not care. They couldn't care less about the Palestinian. What they want is the hostages. Once we have all our hostages, destroy them, annihilate them. They wouldn't mind this at all. Actually, I remember after maybe 10 or 12 months after the beginning of the war, and there was a statistic done by, I think, Tel Aviv University, that stipulated that 98.9%, and this is a right figure, 98.9% of the Israelis do not think that Israel is using an excessive amount of ammunition or about bombs or
That's
whatever.
a scary statistic.
Oh yes, because everybody, I mean, This is one of the bad points of the 7th of October, that it united the Israelis behind this. They don't want, and unfortunately they are totally blinded to what was the real cause behind this, the root cause of the 7th of October, which is the occupation. And if you see any American
and
show...
the torturing of Palestinian prisoners
let's keep it
Israeli
to occupation, because I don't want to...
And the Judization of Al-Quds.
No. I mean, let's leave all that. We are going to talk about one point only, which is occupation. Because when you continue suppressing the people by occupation, you have to expect a reaction. And this was the reaction. You hate it, I know. But you have to expect that something is going to happen.
So I have a very important question here, because time is running out. Has Israeli society changed drastically to the extent that we are not likely to see any political leaders in the near future even talking about a two-state solution, let alone trying to move forward towards achieving it?
The most moderate ones are going to try to say, I mean, they are putting the horse before the carriage. That we have to have a ceasefire. We have to disarm Hamas, and then we can talk about anything else, which is something that will not happen. I mean, but you will not find someone who say, no, we are totally against it. No. I mean, they will say, yes, we are, but first we have to disarm Hamas. We have to find a new authority in the West Bank. I mean, they will put a list of demands, and they will let you get lost inside those details. And this is why I don't want to get lost in the details of the arms of Hamas and the position of Hamas.
You don't see any disarmament of Hamas unless there is a clear, very clear path towards a two-state solution.
Either this, or they will continue on bombing them. They will not stop. And I believe that the United States will not stop them. They think that by this, I mean the Americans, they would think that by this they are paving the way for serious peace talk. How can that be? Because we are going to destroy any possibility of a real debate, and this which is going to make it easy.
And maybe they are paving the way for the main goal, the goal from the very start, to remove Palestinians
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want to say something that Mr. Trump himself said it. And he said it in clear words. I remember it just like as if he just said it yesterday. He said it like a week or 10 days ago. He believes in peace by force. He said this himself. He said that this is the way he believes peace in. And I'm sorry that this is maybe a bad example, but I want to see it anyway. I don't want to see the Palestinian surrender the way we've seen the Japanese surrendering after the two bombs in the Second War. It's not that they are going to use to nuke them or to use nuclear bombs, but they're going to beat them so hard that they will have to surrender.
So unfortunately, you think that more likely than not, we're going to see war return again.
And we are going to see the reality of things once all the hostages and the remains of the one who were killed back in Israel. At this moment, and at this moment only.
So this is the final question. Yes. How can this be stopped? War again and killing again and innocent blood being shed.
Real pressure from the West. And
Europe?
Yes, definitely Europe. But I want to say that even in the United States, the position is changing. It is not with the speed we wanted. Let's not forget, and I'm sorry to take a little bit more of your time, of the show, but I want to say one thing. As long as the American policies and the American election system is ready to accept money, then we cannot eliminate this possibility of lobby from Israel to buy politicians in the United States.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Many thanks to Ambassador Medhat Meligy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Many thanks to you, dear viewers. The top stories now. Thank you for watching.